I found my mother's broken glasses in a dark alley, covered in her blood. 3 gang members had dragged her there 2 hours ago, beat her unconscious, and left her to die for $23. The police said they'd investigate. But I'm not a regular son. I'm a Navy SEAL. And those 3 men just made the biggest mistake of their lives. They have no idea what's coming for them. Hit like, subscribe for more betrayal stories, and comment your city or country. The hospital smelled like bleach and fear. I hate that smell. It reminds me of field hospitals and places I can't talk about, where good men died on metal tables while I held their hands. But this time was different. This time, it was my mother lying in that bed. Dominic. My sister Harper grabbed my arm the second I walked through the emergency room doors. Her eyes were red and swollen. She's stable, but you need to prepare yourself. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My jaw was clenched so tight I thought my teeth would crack. When I walked into that hospital room and saw her, something inside me went cold. Not angry cold. Worse. The kind of cold I felt overseas when the mission went from rescue to revenge. Mom's face was purple and swollen. Both eyes were nearly shut. Her lip was split open. Her right arm was in a cast. 72 years old, and someone had beaten her like she was nothing. "Baby," she whispered when she saw me. Even her voice sounded broken. I sat down next to her bed and took her good hand. Gentle, like she was made of glass. "I'm here, Mom. I'm here." She started crying. Not loud, just tears running down her bruised cheeks. "They came out of nowhere," she said. "I was just walking home from the store. It was still light outside. I had my groceries in my purse, and then 3 young men blocked my path. My hands were shaking. I hid them under the blanket so she wouldn't see. They asked for money. I said yes, I'd give it to them. But they didn't wait. One of them grabbed my purse, and the other 2. They pushed me into the alley." Her voice cracked. I fell. I tried to get up, but they just kept hitting me, kicking me, laughing. The word came out like gravel. They thought it was funny. One of them said, "Stupid old lady, thinking she can walk around here." They took everything. My purse, my groceries, even my wedding ring. She held up her swollen hand. Her finger was bare. The ring my father gave her 45 years ago. Gone. Harper was crying behind me. But I wasn't. I couldn't cry. Not yet. "Did you see their faces?" "Yes. I'll never forget them." "Good." A doctor walked in. Young guy, maybe 30. He looked exhausted. "Mr. Kane? I'm Dr. Patel. Your mother has 3 broken ribs, a fractured arm, severe bruising, and a mild concussion. She's lucky to be alive. If that jogger hadn't found her when he did." He didn't finish the sentence. "When can she go home?" "A few days. We want to monitor her." I nodded. "Thank you." After he left, a police officer came in. Overweight, bored expression, holding a little notebook like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Mrs. Kane, I'm Officer Stevens. I need to ask you some questions about the attack." My mother went through the whole story again. Every painful detail. The officer wrote maybe 3 sentences. "Do you have any leads?" I asked. He barely looked at me. "We'll check the area for cameras, talk to some people. These things take time." These things. My voice was ice. 3 men beat my 72-year-old mother and left her to die in an alley. "I understand you're upset, sir, but we have procedures. How many other elderly people have been attacked in that neighborhood?" He shifted uncomfortably. "There have been a few incidents." "A few. We're doing everything we can." "No, they weren't." I could see it in his eyes. This was just another case file. Another old woman who'd be forgotten by tomorrow. After he left, I kissed my mother's forehead. "Get some rest. Harper will stay with you tonight." "Where are you going?" Harper asked. "To get some air." "Dominic." She followed me into the hallway. "Don't do anything stupid." "I'm just going for a drive." "You're lying." "I know that look. That's your mission look." I didn't answer. "The police will handle this," she said. "No, they won't." "Dominic, please. You just got back from deployment 2 months ago. You're supposed to be resting, not. Our mother was beaten in an alley like a dog." My voice was quiet. Deadly quiet. I'm not resting until the men who did this pay for it. Harper opened her mouth, then closed it. She knew better than to argue when I used that tone. I drove to the alley where it happened. It was in a rundown neighborhood on the east side. The kind of place where people look the other way because getting involved means becoming a target. The alley was narrow. Brick walls on both sides. Dumpsters. Broken bottles. Graffiti everywhere. And there, next to a puddle of dried blood, were my mother's glasses. I picked them up. The frames were bent. One lens was cracked. They still had blood on them. I stood there in that alley as the sun went down, holding those glasses, and I made a promise. I would find the 3 men who did this. I would look them in the eyes, and I would make sure they understood exactly what they'd done. Not with fists, not with bullets, with justice. But first, I needed to know who they were, and I knew exactly where to start. I went back to that neighborhood the next morning, not as a son looking for revenge, as a soldier on a mission. In the SEALs, they teach you something important. Good intelligence wins wars. Bullets are loud and messy. Information is silent and deadly. So I started gathering information. The alley where Mom was attacked sat between 2 buildings. On one side was a laundromat that looked like it hadn't been cleaned since 1995. On the other side was a corner store with bars on the windows. I walked into the corner store. An older man stood behind bulletproof glass at the register. He looked up when I entered, then went back to his phone. "Excuse me," I said. "Do you have security cameras outside?" He didn't look up. "No." "You sure? I see one above your door." "It's broken." "When did it break?" "Long time ago." I could tell he was lying. People in neighborhoods like this learn to stay quiet. Silence keeps them alive. I bought a pack of gum and left. But I didn't leave the area. I spent the next 3 hours walking around, watching, listening, taking mental notes of everything. There was a bus stop across the street where 4 teenagers hung out. They wore matching black jackets with red symbols on the back. Gang colors. There was a bar 2 blocks down called Lucky's. The kind of place where the windows are too dark to see inside. And there were cameras. Lots of them. On the traffic lights. On the ATM machine. On the pawn shop. The police officer said he'd check for cameras. I doubted he even tried. By noon, I'd mapped out the entire area in my head. Then I did something the police would never do. I started talking to people. Not the teenagers. Not the tough guys. I talked to the invisible people. The ones everyone ignores. There was a homeless man named Walter who sat outside the laundromat every day. He had a cardboard sign and a tired smile. I sat down next to him. "Mind if I join you?" He looked surprised. "Free country." I handed him a $20 bill. "I'm looking for information about something that happened here 2 nights ago. An elderly woman was attacked in that alley." Walter's face changed. "I heard about that. Damn shame. Did you see anything?" He was quiet for a long moment. "I see a lot of things. But talking about what I see, that's dangerous." "I understand. But that woman was my mother." He looked at me then. Really looked at me. "Your mother?" "Yes." He sighed. 3 guys. Young. Early 20s. They were bragging about it at Lucky's bar that night. Laughing about how they got $23 and a gold ring. My blood went cold. "You heard them bragging?" Everyone heard them. They were drunk and loud. Talking about how easy it was. How she cried and begged. Walter shook his head. Made me sick. "Do you know their names?" "I don't know names. But I know faces. They're part of the East Side crew. Small-time gang. Think they're tough because they jump old people and sell drugs to high school kids." "What do they look like?" "One of them has a snake tattoo on his neck. The leader always wears a red bandana. The other 2 follow him around like puppies. One's tall and skinny. The other one's got a shaved head." I memorized every word. "Thank you, Walter." "Be careful," he said. "Those boys are stupid, but they're connected. Their leader's uncle is some big-shot lawyer who gets them out of trouble every time." "A lawyer?" "Of course." I walked to Lucky's bar next. It was 1 p.m., but the place was already open. Inside, it was dark and smelled like stale beer and cigarettes. The bartender was a middle-aged guy with a gray beard. He was wiping down glasses when I walked in. "What can I get you?" he asked. "Just a Coke." He poured it and slid it across the bar. I paid and took a sip. "Quiet today," I said. "Always quiet on Wednesdays. I heard this place gets pretty wild on weekends." He shrugged. "Depends." I took another sip. "Casual. Friendly. I'm new to the area. Just moved here. Someone told me to avoid the East Side crew. Said they caused trouble." The bartender's expression shifted slightly. "Smart advice. They come in here?" "Sometimes." "What are they like?" He studied me for a second. "Why do you want to know?" I could lie. Spin some story. But I decided on the truth. Or at least part of it. Because 2 nights ago, 3 members of that gang beat my mother half to death in an alley. And the police don't seem to care. The bartender put down the glass he was holding. "Your mother? Was she the elderly woman?" "Yes." "I'm sorry, man. That's messed up. I need to find them." He hesitated. "Look, I feel for you, but I can't get involved. These guys, they'll burn this place down if they think I'm snitching. I'm not asking you to testify. I just need names." He looked around the empty bar, then leaned in close. "The leader is Ryder Cole. The tall, skinny one is Kyle. I don't know his last name. The one with the shaved head is Mason Grant. Do they come in here often?" "Friday nights. Like clockwork. They sit in the back corner, get drunk, start fights." "Anything else I should know?" The bartender looked me dead in the eye. "Yeah, Ryder's done this before. Beat up an old man last year. Put him in the hospital for 3 weeks. Charges were dropped because his uncle made some kind of deal. People are scared of him because he never faces consequences. Never faces consequences. We'd see about that." I thanked the bartender and left. My next stop was the hospital. Mom was awake when I got there. Harper was feeding her soup. "How are you feeling?" I asked. "Better. Still hurts to breathe." I pulled a chair close. "Mom, I need you to look at some pictures." Harper frowned. "Dominic, she needs to rest. This will only take a minute." I pulled out my phone. I'd spent the last hour searching social media. Ryder Cole wasn't hard to find. He posted constantly. Pictures of himself throwing gang signs. Pictures of cash and guns. Pictures at Lucky's bar. And there, in one picture from 3 days ago, were all 3 of them. Ryder with his snake tattoo and red bandana. Kyle, tall and skinny. Mason with his shaved head. I showed the photo to my mother. Her hands started shaking. "That's them. That's them. You're sure?" "I'll never forget those faces. The one with the snake tattoo. He's the one who kicked me while I was on the ground." Harper looked at the phone, then at me. "What are you going to do?" "What the police should have done already. Find them." "And then what?" I didn't answer. Because the truth was, I didn't know yet. All I knew was that Ryder Cole, Kyle, and Mason Grant had no idea who they'd messed with. They thought my mother was just another victim. Another easy target. Another story to laugh about at the bar. But they made one critical mistake. They didn't ask if she had a son. And they definitely didn't ask what her son did for a living. That Friday, I went to Lucky's bar at 9 p.m. I wore jeans, a plain black jacket, and a baseball cap pulled low. Nothing military. Nothing that screamed threat. Just another guy looking for a drink. The place was packed. Music blasting. People shouting over each other. Smoke hanging thick in the air despite the no smoking signs. I found a seat at the bar where I could see the whole room. The same bartender from earlier gave me a quick nod of recognition, but didn't say anything. Smart guy. I ordered a beer and waited. 20 minutes later, they walked in. Ryder Cole. Snake tattoo on his neck, red bandana tied around his head. Walking like he owned the place. Behind him, Kyle and Mason. Both laughing at something Ryder said. My hands tightened around my beer bottle. Every muscle in my body wanted to walk over there and end this right now. But I stayed still. Patient. Watching. They went to the back corner booth, just like the bartender said they would. For the next hour, I observed them. How they talked. How they moved. Who they interacted with. Ryder did most of the talking. The other 2 just nodded and laughed on cue. Classic pack behavior. 1 alpha, 2 followers. Around 10:30, Mason got up and headed to the bathroom. Alone. This was my chance. I waited 30 seconds, then followed. The bathroom was disgusting. Graffiti on every wall. One of the stalls had no door. The sink was barely holding on. Mason stood at the urinal. He didn't hear me come in. I walked up to the sink and washed my hands. Casual, like I belonged there. Mason finished and walked to the sink next to me. He was shorter up close, maybe 5'8", shaved head, a small scar above his left eyebrow. He glanced at me, then looked away. Just another stranger in a bar bathroom. Then I spoke. Mason Grant. He froze. What? Your name is Mason Grant. You're 22 years old. You live on Maple Street with your grandmother. His face went white. Who are you? I turned to face him fully. Looked him dead in the eyes. 2 nights ago, you and your friends dragged an elderly woman into an alley. You beat her, broke her ribs, stole her wedding ring. You laughed while she begged you to stop. I don't know what you're. That woman was my mother. The color drained completely from his face now. He took a step back, hitting the wall. Look, man, I know where you live. I know where your grandmother lives. I know what car you drive. I know everything about you. Are you threatening me? No. My voice was ice. I'm giving you information. The same way you gave my mother information when you told her she was stupid for walking in that neighborhood. Mason's hands were shaking. What do you want? Justice. I didn't do anything. You stood there and watched. That makes you guilty. He tried to move toward the door, but I stepped in his path. I didn't touch him. Didn't need to. You have 2 choices, I said quietly. Choice 1, you go to the police. You tell them everything. You testify against Ryder. You make this right. Are you crazy? Ryder will kill me. Choice 2, you do nothing. And you face what's coming for you. What's coming for me? I leaned in close. Me. Mason's breathing was fast now. Panicked. I'm a Navy SEAL, I continued. I've hunted terrorists in countries you can't pronounce. I've tracked people through deserts and mountains and cities. And I've never failed a mission. Ever. You can't do anything to me. That's assault. I don't need to touch you. I just need to make your life impossible. Every job you apply for, I'll be there. Every place you try to hide, I'll find you. Every moment you think you're safe, you'll be wrong. He was breathing so fast I thought he might pass out. Or, I said, stepping back, you do the right thing. You cooperate. You testify. And maybe, just maybe, you get a lighter sentence. Maybe you get to rebuild your life instead of spending the next 20 years looking over your shoulder. Mason stared at me. His whole body was trembling. I'll think about it, he whispered. You have 48 hours. I walked out of the bathroom and left the bar without looking back. 2 days later, I got a call from an unknown number. Hello. It's Mason. His voice was shaky. I thought about what you said. And I'll do it. I'll testify. For the first time in 3 days, I felt something close to hope. Smart choice. But you need to know something, Mason said quickly. I told Ryder about you. About our conversation. My blood went cold. You did what? I was scared. I didn't know what else to do. I thought maybe if I told him he'd. What did he say? Mason was quiet for a long moment. He said your mom got off easy. And if you come after him, you'll end up in a hospital bed next to her. Then Mason hung up. I stood there holding the phone, 1,000 thoughts racing through my mind. Ryder knew about me now. He knew I was coming, which meant he'd be ready. Good, because so was I. 3 nights after Mason's warning, they came for me. I was walking to my truck in the parking lot outside my apartment. It was almost midnight. Street lights flickering. Nobody around. I heard them before I saw them. Footsteps. 3 sets. Moving fast. Dominic Kane. I turned. Ryder, Kyle, and Mason stood 20 feet away. Ryder had a crowbar in his hand. Kyle held a baseball bat. Mason looked terrified but was trying to act tough. You must be Ryder, I said calmly. You've been asking questions about me. Threatening my boys. Big mistake. Other people would have run. Called the police. Begged. I did none of those things. Your boys? Mason called me. He wants to testify against you. Ryder laughed. Mason's a liar. He's loyal to the crew. Aren't you, Mason? Mason nodded quickly. Yeah, loyal. See? Ryder stepped closer, tapping the crowbar against his palm. Now here's what's going to happen. You're going to forget about your mom. Forget about us. And if you don't, we'll put you in the hospital. Or worse. Worse. I almost smiled. You beat up a 72-year-old woman and you're threatening me? Your mom should have stayed home. Old people don't belong on our streets. That was the moment I decided they weren't walking away from this. Come on then, I said quietly. Ryder swung the crowbar at my head. I moved left. The crowbar missed by inches. Kyle came from the right with the baseball bat. I ducked, grabbed his wrist, twisted hard. He screamed and dropped the bat. Mason charged forward. I sidestepped and used his momentum to slam him face first into the side of my truck. 10 seconds. All three on the ground. Ryder scrambled to his feet, grabbed a knife from his pocket. You're dead. He lunged. I caught his wrist, twisted it until I heard bones crack. The knife clattered to the pavement. Ryder screamed. I swept his legs and dropped him hard onto the concrete. Then I pulled out my phone and started recording. What are you doing? Ryder gasped. Gathering evidence. You just attacked me with weapons. That's assault with a deadly weapon. Attempted murder if we're being technical. Kyle tried to get up. I put my boot on his chest. Not hard. Just enough to keep him down. Stay. Mason was crying, blood running from his nose. Please, man. Please. I kept recording. State your names for the camera. I'm not saying anything. Ryder spat. Fine. I already have footage of you admitting you attacked my mother. Your mom should have stayed home. That's a confession. Ryder's eyes went wide. You recorded that? I record everything. Sirens in the distance. Someone must have called the police. I kept my phone pointed at all three of them until the cops arrived. 2 squad cars. For officers. Hands up, one of them shouted. I slowly raised my hands, phone still recording. I'm the victim here. These 3 men attacked me with weapons. I defended myself. The officers looked at Ryder, Kyle, and Mason on the ground, then at me standing completely fine. You did that? One officer asked. I'm former military. Navy SEAL. I know how to handle myself. They searched all 3 attackers. Found the knife, crowbar, and bat. Found drugs in Kyle's pocket. One of the officers recognized Ryder. Cole, seriously? Didn't you just make bail last month? This guy attacked us. Ryder shouted. That's not what my video shows, I said, handing my phone to the officer. Watch from the beginning. The officer watched the whole thing. His expression hardened. Book all 3 of them. Assault with a deadly weapon. Attempted murder. Possession. As they loaded Ryder into the police car, he stared at me through the window. Pure hatred in his eyes. I stared back. No emotion. Just cold calculation. An officer took my statement. I told him everything. The attack on my mother. The investigation. Mason's call. Tonight's ambush. You should have come to us, the officer said. I did. Officer Stevens took my mother's statement 3 days ago. Nothing happened. The officer looked uncomfortable. We're working on it. Not fast enough. By 2 a.m., I was back in my apartment. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Mr. Kane? This is Preston Cole. I'm Ryder's uncle and attorney. The corrupt lawyer. Of course. What do you want? My nephew and his friends will be released on bail tomorrow morning. I'm calling as a courtesy to warn you. If you press charges, this will get messy. Very messy. Is that a threat? It's reality. You assaulted 3 young men. They attacked me with weapons. I have video proof. Video can be interpreted many ways. A good lawyer could argue you provoked them, that you stalked them, that you're a trained killer seeking revenge. I'm seeking justice. Preston laughed. Justice and revenge look the same in court. Drop the charges. Walk away, and we'll consider not filing a civil suit against you. No. Excuse me. I said no. Those 3 men beat my mother and left her to die. I'm not dropping anything. Then you're making a very big mistake. We'll see. He hung up. I sat in the darkness of my apartment, thinking. Ryder, Kyle, and Mason would be out on bail by tomorrow. Preston would make sure of that. The system was broken, corrupt, designed to protect people like them. But I didn't need the system. I needed something better. I needed a prosecutor who actually cared. And I knew exactly where to find one. The next morning, I found her, Natalie Brooks, Assistant District Attorney, 38 years old, known for taking cases other prosecutors avoided. Her office was in the courthouse downtown, small, stacked with files everywhere. She looked exhausted when I walked in. "Can I help you?" she asked without looking up. "My name is Dominic Kane. I need a prosecutor who isn't afraid of corrupt lawyers." That got her attention. She looked up. "You have 5 minutes." I sat down and pulled out my phone. 6 days ago, 3 gang members attacked my 72-year-old mother, beat her unconscious, stole everything she had. The police took a statement and did nothing. That's not unusual, unfortunately. 3 nights ago, those same men attacked me in a parking lot with weapons. I have video evidence. They were arrested but released on bail the next morning. Natalie frowned. "Who's their lawyer?" "Preston Cole." Her jaw tightened. "Of course it is. You know him?" "Everyone knows him. He's gotten dozens of criminals off on technicalities. Has connections with judges, police, everyone." "Can you beat him?" She studied me for a long moment. "Show me what you have." I spent the next hour showing her everything. The video of my mother identifying the attackers. The recording of Ryder confessing at the parking lot. The police reports. Medical records. Natalie watched it all carefully. "This is solid evidence," she finally said. "But Preston will fight dirty. He'll claim you provoked them, that you're a vigilante, that your military background makes you dangerous. Let him try. You don't understand. Preston doesn't just defend criminals. He destroys their accusers, digs up dirt, threatens witnesses. I've seen good people lose everything because they went up against him. I'm not good people. I'm a Navy SEAL who's tired of watching bad guys win." Natalie almost smiled. "I can work with that. But we need more than just these 3. We need to prove a pattern. Other victims. Other crimes. I can find them." "How?" "The same way I found you. Investigation." Over the next week, I became a detective. I went back to that neighborhood every day, talked to more people, gathered more stories. An elderly man named Victor told me Ryder's gang had robbed him 8 months ago. Broke his hip. He never reported it because he was scared. A woman named Clara said they'd mugged her teenage son, took his phone and wallet, beat him bad enough to need stitches. A shopkeeper named Ian showed me security footage of Kyle and Mason stealing from his store. He never called the police because Preston threatened to sue him for defamation. Every victim had the same story. Attack, fear, silence. But I convinced them this time could be different. If we all stand together, I told them, they can't silence everyone. Victor was the first to agree. I'm 74 years old. What else can they do to me? Clara agreed next. My son still has nightmares. Someone needs to stop them. Ian was harder to convince. Preston will destroy my business. Or, I said, we destroy his credibility. Show everyone he's been protecting violent criminals for years. One by one, they agreed to testify. I brought everything to Natalie. 5 victims. Hours of video evidence. Medical records. Police reports that were filed but ignored. She looked at it all with something like hope in her eyes. This is it, she said. This is how we bury them. When do we move? Soon. I need to file formal charges. Get everything documented. But with this much evidence, even Preston can't make it disappear. That night, I went to visit my mother. She was home now. Harper was staying with her. Mom looked better. The swelling had gone down. Her bruises were turning yellow. How are you feeling? I asked. Stronger, especially knowing what you've been doing. You know, a detective came by today, asked if I'd be willing to testify in a larger case against Ryder and his gang. Said 4 other victims were already on board. She took my hand. That was you, wasn't it? Justice takes time, Mom, but it's coming. I'm proud of you. Your father would be proud too. We sat in silence for a moment. Then she said something that changed everything. There's one more thing you should know. The woman who lived 2 houses down from me, Mrs. Patterson, she died last year. Heart attack, they said. But before she died, she told me Ryder's gang had broken into her house, terrorized her. She was too scared to report it. You think the stress killed her? I know it did. She was never the same after that night. My blood went cold. This wasn't just assault. This was a pattern of terror that had been going on for years. And tomorrow, it would finally end. I called Natalie. We have one more victim, I said. A woman who died because of what they did to her. That changes everything, Natalie said. That could mean felony murder charges if we can prove the connection. How do we prove it? Medical records, death certificate, testimony from people who knew her. Can you get that? I'll have it by tomorrow. I spent that entire night gathering information about Mrs. Patterson, talked to her daughter, got medical records showing anxiety and heart problems that started right after the break-in. By morning, I had everything. Natalie looked at it all and nodded. File the charges, I said. Already done. The arraignment is in 3 days. Will they try to run? Preston already put up their bail. They think they're untouchable. I smiled. Cold. Dangerous. They have no idea what's coming. 2 days before the arraignment, it started. My mother called me at 6 a.m. Her voice was shaking. Dominic, someone left something on my porch. What is it? A dead rat. And a note. My stomach dropped. What does the note say? She read it slowly. Snitches end up worse than this. I was at her house in 15 minutes. The rat was still there. Gray. Rotting. Flies buzzing around it. The note was written in red marker on torn cardboard. Harper stood in the doorway, pale and scared. We need to call the police. They won't do anything, I said, pulling out my phone. I took pictures of everything. This is witness intimidation. Preston's playbook. He's trying to scare the victims into dropping out. It's working, Mom said quietly. I'm terrified. I knelt down next to her. Mom, look at me. I will not let anything happen to you. I promise. How can you promise that? Because I'm moving in. And I'm calling in backup. An hour later, I made 2 phone calls. The first was to Grant, my old SEAL teammate. 6'4", built like a tank. Currently working private security. I need a favor, I said. Name it. I need you to watch my mother's house. 24/7. Someone's threatening her. I'll be there tonight. The second call was to Tristan, another teammate, expert in surveillance and counterintelligence. I need eyes on 5 addresses, I told him. The other victims in this case. Someone's trying to intimidate them. Send me the list. I'll handle it. By that evening, Grant was parked outside my mother's house in an unmarked car. Tristan had set up cameras at the other victims' homes. We were ready for whatever came next. It came at midnight. Tristan called me. Movement at Victor's house. 2 males. They're spray painting something on his garage door. Can you see their faces? Got them on camera. Clear as day. Don't engage. Just record everything. 10 minutes later, Tristan sent me the footage. Kyle and Mason. Spray painting the word dead across Victor's garage in red paint. I forwarded it to Natalie immediately. She called back within minutes. This is perfect. Witness intimidation. Destruction of property. I can add this to the charges. They're getting desperate, I said. Good. Desperate people make mistakes. The next morning, Victor called me. His voice was different. Angry instead of scared. They painted my garage, he said. Thought it would scare me. But you know what? I'm done being scared. I'm testifying. I don't care what they do. 1 down. But then Clara called. I'm out, she said immediately. What happened? Someone slashed my tires last night. Left a note on my windshield that said they know where my son goes to school. Her voice cracked. I can't risk it. I can't put him in danger. Clara, if you back out, they win. They'll keep doing this to other people. I'm sorry. I just can't. She hung up. I sat there, frustrated. We'd lost 1 witness. Then Natalie called with worse news. We have a problem. Preston filed a motion to dismiss all charges. Claims insufficient evidence. The hearing is tomorrow. How is that possible? We have video evidence. He's arguing that the evidence was obtained illegally, that you conducted an unauthorized investigation, that you provoked the attacks. That's insane. It's Preston. The judge assigned to the case is Judge Holloway. He's ruled in Preston's favor before. Is the judge corrupt? Not corrupt, just cautious. He doesn't like cases that might get overturned on appeal. So what do? We show up tomorrow and fight. Bring everything we have. That night, something else happened. Harper called me at 2 a.m. Someone tried to break into Mom's house. Is she okay? Grant stopped them, scared them off before they even got to the door. But Dominic, this is getting out of control. Did Grant see who it was? He said it was 2 guys in ski masks. They ran when they saw him. I called Grant immediately. Talk to me. 2 males. Late teens, early 20s. They tried the back door. I came around the corner and they bolted. Didn't get a good look at their faces, but I got their license plate. He read it to me. I wrote it down. Run it. I said to Tristan on a 3-way call. Tristan typed for a minute. Registered to a Kyle Brennan. Address matches your suspect. It's him, I said. He sent someone to my mother's house. What do you want me to do? Grant asked. Stay put. Protect my mom. I'll handle Kyle. The next morning, I showed up at the courthouse early. Natalie was already there, looking stressed. Please tell me you have good news, she said. Kyle tried to have my mother's house broken into last night. We have the license plate. We have video of him spray painting Victor's garage. We have everything. She exhaled. That might be enough to keep the case alive. We walked into the courtroom. Judge Holloway was already seated. Older man. Gray hair. Stern expression. Preston sat at the defense table with Ryder, Kyle, and Mason, all 3 wearing suits. Looking innocent. Preston stood when he saw me. Smiled like a shark. Mr. Kane. Still playing detective. I didn't respond. The hearing began. Preston argued for 30 minutes. Talking about illegal evidence. Vigilante justice. How I'd stalked and provoked his clients. Then it was Natalie's turn. She presented everything. The video evidence. The witness statements. The photos of the intimidation. The license plate from last night's break-in attempt. Your Honor, she said, this isn't about illegal evidence. This is about a pattern of violence and intimidation that's gone unchecked for years. The defense wants these charges dismissed because they know they're guilty. Judge Holloway was quiet for a long time. Then he spoke. Motion to dismiss is denied. This case will proceed to trial. Bail is revoked for all 3 defendants pending trial. Preston stood up immediately. Your Honor, I've heard enough, Mr. Cole. These men are a clear danger to witnesses. Bailiff, take them into custody. Ryder's face went white. Kyle started shouting. Mason just stared at the floor. As they were led away in handcuffs, Ryder looked at me one last time. And I looked back. Justice was finally coming. With Ryder, Kyle, and Mason in jail, I thought the worst was over. I was wrong. 3 days later, Natalie called me. She sounded panicked. We have a major problem. Someone leaked the witness list to the media. All their names. All their addresses. How did that happen? I don't know. That information was sealed. Only a few people had access to it. Preston, he's a lawyer, not a cop. He shouldn't have been able to get it. Then someone gave it to him. Natalie went quiet. You think there's a leak inside the police department? I know there is. That afternoon, every witness received threatening phone calls. Unknown numbers. Same message, drop out or face consequences. Victor called me, angry. They published my address in some blog. Now everyone knows where I live. Ian called next. Someone vandalized my store. Broke the windows. Wrote snitch across the front. My mother's phone rang 12 times in 1 hour. All blocked numbers. All silent calls meant to terrify her. This wasn't random. This was organized. I called Tristan. I need you to dig into something. Find out who had access to that witness list. On it. While he worked, I did my own investigation. I went back to the police station where Officer Stevens had taken my mother's original statement. The lazy cop who barely cared. I found him at his desk, eating a sandwich. Officer Stevens. He looked up, annoyed. What do you want? I want to know why you didn't investigate my mother's case. I told you these things take time. Really? Because 3 days after I filed the complaint, Ryder knew my name and where I lived. How did he get that information? Stephen's face changed slightly. Just a flicker. But I saw it. I don't know what you're talking about. You leaked the police report to Preston Cole, didn't you? That's a serious accusation. It's the truth. He stood up. Get out of here before I arrest you for harassment. I didn't move. How much did he pay you? Leave. Now. I walked out, but I knew I was right. That night, Tristan called. You're not going to believe this. Try me. I tracked the leak. Someone from inside the police department accessed the witness files remotely. 3 times in the last week. Can you trace who? Already did. Officer Michael Stevens. There it was. Can you prove it? I have server logs. Timestamps. Everything. He accessed the files and forwarded them to an external email address. Whose email? Preston Cole's law firm. My blood went cold. This wasn't just witness intimidation. This was corruption at every level. I called Natalie immediately. I know who the leak is. Officer Stevens. He's been feeding information to Preston for who knows how long. Can you prove it? Tristan has digital evidence. Server logs showing Stevens accessed sealed files and sent them to Preston's firm. That's a felony. If we can prove this, Preston could be disbarred. Stevens could go to jail. What do? We set a trap. The next day, Natalie created a fake witness list, added a made-up name and address, marked it as confidential, and stored it in the same system Stevens had accessed before. Then we waited. 2 days later, Tristan called. Someone accessed the fake witness list. Same IP address. Same email forwarding to Preston's firm. We got him. Natalie immediately filed a complaint with Internal Affairs. Presented all the evidence. The server logs. The email forwards. Everything. Within 48 hours, Officer Stevens was suspended pending investigation. But we weren't done. Natalie filed a motion with the State Bar Association. Presented evidence that Preston had knowingly received illegally obtained information, that he'd used it to intimidate witnesses in an active criminal case. The Bar Association opened an emergency investigation. Preston tried to fight back, filed motions, made public statements, called us vigilantes and liars. But the evidence was overwhelming. 1 week later, Preston Cole was suspended from practicing law, pending a full hearing that could end with permanent disbarment. Without Preston, Ryder, Kyle, and Mason lost their protection. The public defender assigned to them was a young woman named Paige, fresh out of law school. Honest. She took one look at the evidence and told them the truth. You're going to lose. The best thing you can do is take a plea deal. Ryder refused. I want a trial. That's your right. But you should know, the prosecution has video evidence. 5 witnesses, medical records, and now evidence that your lawyer was illegally obtaining information to intimidate those witnesses. A jury will destroy you. Kyle broke first. He contacted Natalie through Paige, said he wanted to cooperate, testify against Ryder in exchange for a reduced sentence. Mason followed 2 days later. Suddenly, Ryder was alone. The trial was set for 3 weeks out. But the biggest twist came the day before jury selection. Natalie called me, and I could hear the excitement in her voice. You need to come to my office. Now. I arrived 20 minutes later. She handed me a file. Internal Affairs finished their investigation into Stevens, and they found something we didn't expect. I opened the file. Inside were records showing that Preston had paid Stevens over $50,000 in the last 2 years. Bribes for information on dozens of cases. Not just ours. This is bigger than we thought, Natalie said. Preston's been running a corruption ring, paying cops for information, getting criminals off on technicalities. For years. How many cases? At least 40 that we know of. Maybe more. I sat down, stunned. What happens now? Now? The FBI is involved. They're investigating Preston for racketeering, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Stevens is looking at 10 years in federal prison. And Preston? She smiled. He's finished. For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to peace. The system was broken, but we'd exposed the cracks. And now, slowly, it was starting to fix itself. Tomorrow, the trial would begin, and Ryder would finally face justice. The courtroom was packed. Media in the back rows. Cameras outside. This case had become bigger than just my mother. It was about corruption, about justice, about whether the system actually worked. I sat in the front row behind Natalie. My mother sat next to me, Harper on her other side. Mom's hands were shaking, but she was here. That took courage. Across the aisle, Ryder sat alone at the defense table with Paige, his new lawyer. No more Preston. No more protection. Just him and the truth. He looked smaller somehow. Less dangerous. Just a scared kid who'd finally run out of places to hide. Judge Holloway entered. Everyone stood. Please be seated. We're here for the trial of Ryder Cole, charged with assault, robbery, witness intimidation, and conspiracy. Is the prosecution ready? Natalie stood. Yes, Your Honor. Is the defense ready? Paige stood. Yes, Your Honor. Then let's begin with opening statements. Natalie walked to the jury. 12 people. Regular citizens. They would decide Ryder's fate. Members of the jury, Natalie began. This case is simple. The defendant, Ryder Cole, led a gang that terrorized elderly people in their own neighborhood. They targeted the vulnerable, the defenseless, people who couldn't fight back. She pointed to my mother. That's Eleanor Kane. She's 72 years old. 3 weeks ago, the defendant and his gang dragged her into an alley and beat her unconscious. They broke her ribs, fractured her arm, stole her wedding ring, and they laughed while they did it. The jury looked at my mother. Some of them looked angry. But Eleanor isn't the only victim. Over the next few days, you'll hear from other elderly people who suffered the same fate. You'll see video evidence, medical records, and you'll hear testimony from 2 of the defendant's own gang members who will tell you exactly what happened. She paused. The defense will try to make you feel sorry for Ryder Cole. They'll say he had a hard life, that he made mistakes. But Eleanor Kane had a hard life too. So did the other victims. And they didn't beat people in alleys. They didn't laugh at suffering. They chose to be good people. The defendant chose differently. Natalie sat down. Paige stood for the defense. She looked nervous. Ladies and gentlemen, my client made terrible choices. I'm not going to lie to you. But this case isn't just about what he did. It's about why. Ryder Cole grew up in poverty. No father. Mother addicted to drugs. He joined a gang because he had nowhere else to go. That doesn't excuse what he did, but it explains it. She glanced at Ryder. We're asking for fairness. For the chance at rehabilitation. For mercy. It was a weak opening. Everyone knew it. The prosecution's case came first. Natalie called my mother to the stand. Mom walked up slowly, still limping slightly from her injuries. She was sworn in and sat down. Mrs. Kane, can you tell us what happened on the night of October 3rd? Mom took a deep breath. I was walking home from the grocery store. It was about 6 p.m. Still light outside. 3 young men approached me. Do you see any of those men in this courtroom? Yes, that one. She pointed directly at Ryder. He was the leader. What happened next? They blocked my path. Asked for money. I said I'd give them my purse, but before I could, one of them grabbed it. Then they pushed me into an alley. Her voice started shaking. I fell. I tried to get up, but they started hitting me, kicking me. I begged them to stop, but they just laughed. What's the last thing you remember? The one with the snake tattoo, him. She pointed at Ryder again. He kicked me in the head. Then everything went black. I woke up in the hospital. The jury was silent. Some looked horrified. Paige tried to cross-examine, but had nothing. Mom's testimony was clear and devastating. Next, Natalie called Victor. He told his story. How Ryder's gang had robbed him months earlier. How they'd broken his hip. Then Ian testified. Then another victim. And another. Each story was the same. Attack. Terror. Laughter. On day 3, the biggest moment came. Natalie called Kyle to the stand. Kyle walked up in an orange jumpsuit. He'd already pled guilty and was testifying as part of his deal. Mr. Kyle, tell us about the night of October 3rd. Kyle's voice was quiet. Ryder said we needed money. Said there was an old lady who walked home from the store every week. Easy target. Whose idea was it to attack her? Ryder's. He planned everything. What happened in the alley? Kyle looked down. Mason grabbed her purse. She fell. Then Ryder started kicking her. Told us to join in. So we did. Did she beg you to stop? Yes. She was crying. Saying please. But Ryder just laughed. Said old people don't deserve respect. The courtroom was dead silent. What happened after? We took her purse. Found $23 and a ring. Ryder kept the ring. Said he'd sell it. Natalie held up a gold ring in an evidence bag. Is this the ring? Kyle nodded. Yes. Where was it found? In Ryder's apartment. Police recovered it during the arrest. Ryder's face went pale. Page had no questions. Mason testified next. His story matched Kyle's exactly. On day 4, Natalie called me to the stand. I walked up, was sworn in, and sat down. Mr. Kane, what's your relationship to Eleanor Kane? She's my mother. What's your profession? I'm a Navy SEAL. The jury sat up straighter. People always do when they hear that. Tell us what happened when you learned about the attack. I told them everything. Finding her in the hospital. The investigation. Confronting Mason. The parking lot ambush. Finding the other victims. Why did you get involved? Because the police weren't doing enough. Because my mother deserved justice. And because I knew if I didn't stop them, they'd hurt someone else. Natalie showed the jury my videos. The confrontation in the parking lot. Ryder confessing. The weapons. Everything. Page tried to make me look like a vigilante during cross-examination. But it didn't work. Mr. Kane, isn't it true you used your military training to intimidate my client? I used my training to defend myself when your client attacked me with weapons. There's a difference. The jury nodded. On day 5, both sides rested. Closing arguments came next. Natalie was powerful. The evidence is overwhelming. The defendant is guilty. Give Eleanor Kane and the other victims the justice they deserve. Page tried her best. My client deserves a second chance. But we all knew how this would end. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they came back, the forewoman stood. Have you reached a verdict? We have, Your Honor. On the charge of assault, how do you find? Guilty. On the charge of robbery? Guilty. On the charge of witness intimidation? Guilty. Every single count. Guilty. Ryder's head dropped. He didn't cry, just stared at the table. Judge Holloway set sentencing for 2 weeks later. As we left the courtroom, my mother squeezed my hand. Thank you, she whispered. It's not over yet, but we're close. 2 weeks felt like forever, but finally, sentencing day arrived. I drove my mother to the courthouse. She wore her best dress, the same one she'd worn to my father's funeral 5 years ago. She said it made her feel strong. Are you nervous? I asked. No, I'm ready to see this end. The courtroom was full again. All the victims were there. Victor, Ian, the others. We'd all become a kind of family through this nightmare. Ryder was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. He looked different, thinner, older. Prison was already changing him. Judge Holloway entered, and everyone stood. Please be seated. We're here for sentencing in the matter of the state versus Ryder Cole. Before I deliver the sentence, I'll hear from the victims. Mrs. Kane, would you like to speak? My mother stood slowly, walked to the front. She didn't have any notes, just spoke from her heart. Your Honor, I'm 72 years old. I've lived in this city my whole life, raised 2 children, worked as a nurse for 40 years. I've seen violence. I've treated victims, but I never thought I'd become one. She turned to look at Ryder. That night in the alley, I thought I was going to die. I thought my last memory would be of strangers laughing while they hurt me. But I survived. And now I'm standing here, and you're sitting there. That's justice. She turned back to the judge. I don't want revenge. I want safety. I want to know that other elderly people won't go through what I did. So I ask that you give him a sentence that protects people like me. Thank you. She sat down. Harper hugged her. Victor spoke next. Then Ian. Each victim told their story. The fear, the trauma, the sleepless nights. Finally, the judge turned to Ryder. Mr. Cole, do you wish to say anything before I impose sentence? Ryder stood. His lawyer whispered something to him. He nodded. Your Honor, I know I did terrible things. I hurt people who didn't deserve it. I was angry at the world, and I took it out on innocent people. That was wrong. His voice cracked slightly. I can't undo what I did. But if I could go back, I would. I'm sorry. To Mrs. Kane and everyone else. I'm truly sorry. The judge stared at him for a long moment. Mr. Cole, I've been a judge for 23 years. I've heard a lot of apologies. Some genuine. Most not. I want to believe you mean what you just said. But your actions tell a different story. He picked up a file. You have a record. Assault charges when you were 17. Dropped because of your lawyer uncle. Robbery charges at 19. Also dropped. You've been given chance after chance. And what did you do? You formed a gang. You targeted the weakest members of our community. You terrorized elderly people for pocket change. The judge's voice grew harder. Mrs. Patterson, who lived in that neighborhood, died of a heart attack last year. Medical records show her health declined rapidly after your gang broke into her home and terrorized her. While I can't directly charge you with her death, her blood is on your hands. Ryder looked down. The law requires me to consider your age, your background, the possibility of rehabilitation. I've considered all of it. But I've also considered something else, public safety, and the message this sentence sends. Judge Holloway leaned forward. People need to know that targeting vulnerable victims will not be tolerated. That corruption and intimidation will not save you. That eventually, justice will find you. He opened another file. Ryder Cole, on the charge of assault with serious bodily injury, I sentence you to 8 years in state prison. On the charge of robbery, 6 years. On the charge of witness intimidation, 5 years. These sentences will run consecutively, not concurrently. Total sentence, 19 years in state prison. No possibility of parole for at least 12 years. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Ryder's face went white. 19 years. You're 23 years old, the judge continued. If you serve your minimum sentence, you'll be 35 when you're released. Use that time wisely. Get your education. Work on yourself. Because when you get out, you'll have one chance to prove you've changed. Don't waste it. He banged his gavel. This court is adjourned. Bailiffs led Ryder away. He looked back once at the courtroom. His eyes met mine. I didn't smile. Didn't gloat. Just nodded once. It was over. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded us. Mrs. Kane, how do you feel about the sentence? Mom spoke calmly. I feel like justice was served. Not revenge. Justice. Mr. Kane, you're being called a hero. How do you respond? I shook my head. I'm not a hero. I'm just a son who protected his mother. Any decent person would have done the same. What about Kyle and Mason? They cooperated. They testified. They'll serve reduced sentences. 5 years each. That seems fair. And Preston Cole? Natalie stepped forward. Preston Cole is currently under federal investigation for racketeering, bribery, and corruption. He'll face trial next year. If convicted, he's looking at significant prison time. More questions came, but we walked away. This wasn't about publicity. It was about closure. That evening, I sat with my mother in her living room. Harper had made dinner. We ate together like we hadn't done in months. What will you do now? Mom asked me. Go back to my team. Back to work. But I'll visit more often. I promise. Good. Because I'm not going anywhere. This is my neighborhood. I refuse to be scared in my own home. I smiled. That was the mother I knew. Strong. Unbreakable. Later that night, Victor called. Did you hear about the news? What news? The city is starting a new program. Neighborhood protection for elderly residents. Volunteers. Cameras on every corner. They're calling it Eleanor's Law. I looked at my mother. She was smiling. That's perfect, I said. 3 months later, Kyle and Mason were sentenced. Both expressed genuine remorse. Both accepted their 5-year sentences without complaint. Preston Cole's trial was scheduled. The evidence against him was overwhelming. His career was finished. Officer Stevens pled guilty to corruption charges. 7 years in federal prison. And Ryder? He started his 19-year sentence at a maximum security facility upstate. Justice wasn't quick, but it was thorough. And sometimes that's enough. 6 weeks after Ryder's sentencing, something unexpected happened. I got a letter in the mail. Prison envelope. Return address from the state correctional facility. From Ryder. I almost threw it away. But curiosity won. I opened it. Mr. Kane, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I don't blame you. But I need to say something. I've had a lot of time to think in here. About what I did. About your mother. About all the people I hurt. I can't take it back. But I'm trying to understand why I became that person. My counselor here says I was angry. At my life. At my family. At everything. And I took it out on people who didn't deserve it. That's not an excuse. Just the truth. I'm working on my GED now. Taking classes. Trying to be different. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that your mother's strength changed something in me. When she stood in that courtroom and said she wanted safety, not revenge, I realized how much damage I'd caused. I'm going to spend the next 12 years trying to become someone worth forgiving. Thank you for not giving up when the system failed. You showed me what real strength looks like. Ryder, I read it twice. Then I showed it to my mother. She read it slowly. When she finished, tears were in her eyes. What do you think? I asked. I think he's trying. Whether he succeeds or not, that's up to him. But trying is a start. Are you going to write back? She thought for a long moment. Maybe. Someday. When I'm ready. That was enough. Life started returning to normal. Or a new version of normal. Mom joined the neighborhood watch program. Started walking with a group of other elderly residents every evening. Safety in numbers. Harper convinced her to take a self-defense class. Mom laughed at first, but then she went. Said it made her feel powerful again. Victor opened a community center in the neighborhood. A safe place for elderly people to gather. Play cards. Share stories. Look out for each other. Ian's store was repaired and reopened. The neighborhood rallied around him. Business was better than ever. The changes weren't dramatic, but they were real. Eleanor's law passed city council. Cameras on every corner in high-crime neighborhoods. More police patrols. Resources for elderly victims of crime. My mother was invited to speak at the signing ceremony. She stood at the podium, small but powerful, and said something I'll never forget. Justice isn't about revenge. It's about making sure what happened to me never happens to someone else. It's about turning pain into protection, fear into strength. That's what this law represents. Hope. The crowd applauded. I stood in the back, watching her. Proud. That night, we had dinner at her house. The whole family. Harper and her husband. Their kids. Grant and Tristan stopped by too. We'd all become close through this fight. Remember when you told me not to do anything stupid? I said to Harper. She laughed. And you ignored me completely. If I'd listened, those 3 would still be out there. Hurting people. I know. I'm glad you didn't listen. Mom raised her glass. To family. To justice. To new beginnings. We all raised our glasses. Later, as everyone was leaving, Mom pulled me aside. What's next for you? I'm deploying again next month. Back overseas. Will you be safe? As safe as I can be. But knowing you're safe here? That makes everything easier. She hugged me tight. I'm proud of you. Not because you're a Navy SEAL, but because you're a good son. I learned from the best. As I drove home that night, I thought about everything that had happened. The attack. The investigation. The corruption. The trial. It would have been easy to give up. To let the system fail. To accept that bad guys sometimes win. But we didn't. We fought. We exposed the truth. We demanded justice. And we won. Not because I'm special. Not because I'm a trained soldier. But because I refused to let evil win without a fight. 3 days before I deployed, I visited the alley one last time. The place where it all started. It looked different now. Cleaner. Someone had painted over the graffiti. The dumpsters were gone. In their place was a small memorial garden. Flowers. A bench. A plaque that read, "In memory of those who suffered here. May this place now bring peace." I sat on the bench for a while, thinking, remembering. My phone buzzed. Text from Natalie. Preston pled guilty to all charges. 15 years federal prison. It's over. We won. I smiled. Justice takes time, but it comes. Always. Would you protect your family the way Dominic protected his mother? Drop your thoughts in the comments below